Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to be a little controversial, and the reason I know it's going to be is because there is a court case that's been going on for the last 17 years, since 2008, between one individual and one of the biggest telecommunications companies in South Africa. And at the heart of it is the Please Call Me saga. Now, before we get into the details, please be sure to subscribe if you have not done so before. You can fix that problem by just clicking the subscribe button below. Alright, so Nkosana Makate has been taking Vodacom to court since 2008 because he believes that he is the inventor of the Please Call Me system, and Vodacom needs to pay him because internal emails and correspondence and a verbal agreement has led him to believe that he is entitled to hundreds of millions of rands. The reason I know that is because Vodacom offered to settle this court case. I believe it was 47 million rand, and he rejected it outright. Now, what is a little bit problematic with regards to this court case is the fact that Please Call Me is known by everybody in South Africa as a Vodacom product. However, MTN launched their Please Call Me service 3 months before Vodacom did. Oh, and MTN also has the trademark to exactly what Vodacom copied. Now, the bigger question here is, why hasn't MTN taken Vodacom to court for infringing on their copyright? That might still come. So if Nkosana magically wins and he gets paid hundreds of millions of rands, maybe MTN will come for him as well as Vodacom. Now, what's important just for context here is that the article you're about to read already speaks about this being at the Constitutional Court, and the verdict from the Constitutional Court is that this must go back to the Supreme Court of Appeals, because the previous judgment, they didn't say it in these words, but in essence they said that these judges must have been on crack to make that verdict. They said that that wasn't justice. So the outcome of this is that it must go back, but also that Nkosana must pay 13 million rand in legal fees. Now, I'm not sure exactly what the deal is with his attorneys. I think that they are working on contingency, which means that if he wins, they get a percentage, and if he doesn't win, then he doesn't have to pay the legal costs. So it's a win-lose situation for the lawyers, but if they win big, and if they lose, then they've wasted 17 years on this court case. That is what I'm suspecting is going on here. But the fact that he was hit with 13 million rand that he has to pay means that he's it's one of those situations where you don't know if you're going to be 100 millionaire or if you're going to be blacklisted. It must be such a weird space to be in. You're either going to buy Ferraris and Lamborghinis and own a beautiful house, or you are going to potentially go back and live with your parents. It's such a weird predicament to be in. But anyway, let's get to this article. Please Call Me idea man must pay Vodacom millions. There we go. Just to get into the crux of the story, the Concord recent cost order against Makate would result in the Please Call Me idea man having to pay 13 million rand in legal fees, much of which will go to Vodacom. IO reported the total amount and said Makate was committed to fighting the cost order. Makate said he accepted the Apex Court overturning his victory in the Supreme Court, but disagreed with the costs order. Vodacom had approached the Constitutional Court after the Supreme Court of Appeal ruled against the mobile operator and amended a previous High Court order in favor of Makate. In dismissing the appeal, the SCA ordered that Vodacom must pay between 5 to 7.5% of the voice revenue that Please Call Me generated over 18 years. It also ruled that Vodacom must use Makate's models to calculate the appropriate amount and add interest over the period. Vodacom applied to the Con Court to appeal the SCA's order, arguing that the judges concurring with the majority ruling had failed to consider critical evidence denying its right to a fair trial. The mobile operator also argued that the SCA's order was unenforceable as it created a 29 billion to 63 billion range for the compensation. Alright, so I profusely apologized because earlier in this video I said that he's looking at getting a few 100 million. I'm sorry, in actual fact, it's between 29 to 63 billion rand. What is going on with these people? Anyway, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I just wanted to focus on the fact that it says, therefore, the 13 million rand legal bill Makate has been saddled with is for 6 counsel and the preparatory work that went into their appearance before the Constitutional Court for the hearing. Now, over here, in essence, they just discuss why this 13 million rand is unfair. But I just want to focus, on this. According to an internal Vodacom newsletter, his idea was ultimately developed into Please Call Me, which launched on the Vodacom network in 2001, almost 3 months after MTN. Although Makate was not involved in the development or launch of the product, and compelling evidence that MTN was actually the original inventor of Call Me, he said he was promised compensation. Internal Vodacom emails presented in court showed that former product development head Philip Gessler had promised Makate that he would speak to former CEO Alan Craig about a suitable reward. However, he also cautioned, albeit more diplomatically, that there likely wouldn't be an additional cash reward for doing your job. That is what I wanted to focus on. As for rewards, all staff are expected to assist the company to achieve its goals. That is part of normal business, Gessler wrote to Makate in an email dated the 6th of February 2001. As for you and your assistants, once the product is launched and assuming it's successful, I will speak to Alan. You have my word. And here's the thing. Unfortunately, Gessler was never called to testify before the court, something the Constitutional Court took a dim view on. Instead, Vodacom had relied on the testimony of Craig, whom the panel of judges had found it to be a poor witness. And it goes on and on and on, but you get the gist. So you are up to date with this now. A guy thinks of an idea that MTN has already thought of and trademarked, and then he speaks to his boss, and his boss says that's a good idea, and a couple of weeks or months later he says, have you heard anything? Am I going to get some money for it? Knowing that this person is an employee of the company and is getting a salary, and then they saying, yeah, we'll look at it, and if it's successful, then I'll speak to whomever the person in charge was, not promising that he's going to get anything. Now, what's important to note right here is that he had the opportunity to take 47 million rand. But it seems that greed got the better of him. And just by saying that, I'm going to piss off a lot of South Africans because they are die-hard Nkosana supporters and they want him to get as much as possible, even if it means that Vodacom goes bankrupt, which is, unreasonable if you think about it. But ultimately, here's somebody that thought of an idea that somebody else already thought of and trademarked, and your boss said that he will look into it, and maybe you'll get something, maybe not. And then because of that flimsy 2 concepts that I've just discussed, he has now been in court for the last 17 years wanting to get paid billions of rands. Let's just be honest with one another. He was working for a company. He came up with the idea for that company. And as we all know, around the world, if you come up with something or something that benefits the company and you work for the company, it's the company's property. That is how it works around the world. Well, at least in Western capitalistic societies, right? So, firstly, if it's just on principle that he came up with the idea and MTN didn't trademark it and they didn't have the idea before him, the right thing to do would be that Vodacom pays him compensation, a couple of million rand, right? Ultimately, though, he became so arrogant about it that it's lasted 17 years and we are at this point where he was offered 47 million rand, turned it down because he wants his billions. And now, in actual fact, he is 13 million rand in debt. This is what happens when you get too greedy. This is what happens when your lawyers convince you that you're owed more than what you're actually owed. And you just have to look at the facts. He was employed by a company. he wasn't in actual fact the original person that thought of this idea, because MTN launched 3 months earlier and they owned the trademark to this call me idea, which is the exact application of what Nkosana pitched to the Vodacom execs. But then also the last part is that, yes, they might have said, we'll reward you and we'll might give you some compensation, but it was on the basis that this person will speak to the higher ups. And if they disagreed, then, I'm sorry, there's nothing that he could have benefited from it. So ultimately, you had the opportunity to take 47 million rand and you gave them the middle finger. And now the Constitutional Court agreed with Vodacom that there was an injustice at the Supreme Court of Appeals, and they then slap you with 13 million rand just to say thank you for visiting the Constitutional Court. So ladies and gentlemen, this is a cautionary tale of what can happen. Now look, it's not done yet. The saga is going to continue even further, because later this year it's going back to the Supreme Court of Appeals. And I'm pretty sure that whatever the outcome is, it will once again go to the Constitutional Court. So the ultimate question that you also have to ask yourself is all of this really worth 17 years of your life so far? And also the opportunity that you had to take 47 million rand. That is something that was on the table and could have allowed you to just continue with your life and not make plans as if you're a billionaire or make plans as if you live with your parents. At the end of the day, this is greed. This is what greed looks like. And you can fight me on this as much as you want, but if somebody had to offer me 20 years fighting a court case and you could potentially get 50 billion rand, or here's a guaranteed 47 million rand, I can bet you that majority of people would have taken the 47 million rand, because, something that you can feel and touch and is there is better than a maybe down the line. So ultimately what this boils down to is whether or not 47 million rand and no more fighting was worth it. And the answer was quite clear from Nkosana that it was not, and he wants to chase the billions. Doesn't make a lot of sense, because 47 million rand can immediately change his life and his family's life and assist his children and his children's children. But he is chasing this dream of billions of rands that he will never be able to spend in his lifetime. But hey, that's just my take. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share this video far and wide. And if you support me and if you support this channel, it'll be greatly appreciated if you can become a member. And you can do that by clicking the join button below, and it'll cost you 39.99 rand a month. And that's all I got to say. Till later, cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre.